Will the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, October 18th, 2023, please come to order? This evening's meeting will be a virtual planning and zoning meeting hosted by Zoom. During this meeting, our procedures will be as follows. 1, when you first enter the meeting, you will be in a virtual waiting room until the meeting host admits you. 2, please be aware that your camera, if you have one, and or your microphone may be muted by the meeting host when you enter the meeting. You can turn on your camera at any time so that you can be seen by others when and if you choose to. In order to run an efficient and orderly meeting in this virtual environment, unless stated otherwise by the meeting chairman during the meeting host may keep everyone other than the commissioner members muted. You will still be able to hear everything said by the commission members, even if you're muted and or your camera is not on. There will be opportunity for public comment during public hearings, at which time public participants will be unmuted. 3, during the public hearing, the applicant will be invited to present the application, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested. The meeting host will share all related documents on the screen as needed. In addition, all applications and supporting materials for each application on the agenda have been available through the public meeting calendar page of the town website, www.guilfordct.gov, and also through a direct link on the planning and zoning page. 4, comments of town agencies will be discussed as applicable to the application. There will be clarifying questions from the commissioners, and the town planner will direct our attention to any additional items pertinent to the application. 5, after all commissioner questions are exhausted, those who wish to speak in support or in opposition to the application will be asked to come forward, state their name and address for the record, and make a statement. 6, the applicant will then have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public or commissioners. 7, once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of public hearings and the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. 8, decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling Planning and Zoning Department at 203-453-8039 or by emailing planning.zoning@guilfordct.gov after 9 a.m. 9, all actions taken on applications tonight by the commission will be by roll call. All commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. Seated this evening are the following members who will please identify themselves. Kevin Clark.
Here.
Bill Freeman.
Here.
Ted Sands is not here tonight. Philip Johnson.
Here.
Sean Cosgrove.
Here.
Frank D'Andrea.
Here.
And I am Scott Edmonds, chair. Alternates present are Jason Marchi.
Here.
Larry Rizzolo.
Here.
And Bob Harrington.
Here.
So since we have one vacancy at the moment, we'll and it looks like Bob was the last alternate to be elevated to seated. So tonight we'll do Jason Marchi as seated.
Okay.
Staff present are Ann Harchin, town planner.
Here.
And Janique Morgan, administrative assistant, planning and zoning.
Yeah.
This meeting will be recorded via the Zoom platform and made available on the town website for viewing. The secretary will now read the legal notice.
Janique, the legal notice that you provided in your email is dated 10 for the 10-4 meeting.
Right. So it's gonna be the hearing because we canceled that meeting. So
just
it was legally noticed.
It's the same notice.
Yes.
Okay.
Because of the cancel meeting.
So should I, when I read this, should I just change the date to October 18th?
You could just mention that it was October 4th and then it was moved to October 18th.
Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a virtual public hearing on October 18th because the October 4th meeting was canceled at 7:30 p.m. via the Zoom platform by using the following link. Attendees are advised not to go to the regular community center location because a physical meeting will not take place. The following applications will be heard. The Guilford Land Conservation, 140 River Street, map 39, lot 07, zone R3, coastal site plan application to replace and restore an existing stone bulkhead. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the Planning and Zoning Office and on the town's website. At this hearing, persons may attend via web connection and shall be heard. All written correspondence shall be submitted to planning.zoning@guilford.ct.gov 24 hours prior to the meeting day. Documents are available at the Planning and Zoning Office, dial 203-453-8039 for assistance. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 14th day of September 2023. Scott Edmund, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I'd entertain a motion to open public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Philip. Thank you, Jason. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. First item on the agenda, Ann.
I would just note for the record that that notice was posted in October, not September. Is that correct, Janique?
No, so the day we sent it out to be posted was in September, but it would have been for October 4th, which was canceled. That meeting was canceled.
Okay, thank you. Our first item for public hearing tonight is 140 River Street, map 39, lot 7, zone R3. The applicant is the Guilford Land Conservation Commission, I believe. It's a coastal site plan application to replace and restore an existing stone bulkhead on River Street. As noted previously, all application materials and the proposed motion have been posted to our website.
Thank you. Who do we have here to present for this application?
David Provencher.
Hi, David.
Hi, Scott. So I can share my screen if that's acceptable.
That'd be great.
Okay. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. My name is David Provencher. My company, Shore Design, here in Guilford, specializes in waterfront design and land use. The subject property is 140 River Street and is owned by the Guilford Land Conservation Trust. They hired us in collaboration with Sound Engineering Associates to come up with a repair solution for the stone bulkhead along the waterfront, and then to apply for local, state, and federal coastal permits. So the aerial map that you see before you is just showing the location of the property. It's at the west end of Broad Street, and it sits on the West River. There's about 356 feet of frontage, and the West River, if you don't know, is a tidal river. So although the natural flow is from north to south, it does receive tidal action, and certainly during high tides, the water floods from south to north. So I'm just going to quickly go through sort of the ground conditions. You all may be familiar with the property. So the Land Trust acquired it in, I believe, 1981. And it's since then been affectionately named Olmsted Outlook, after the famous landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted, who designed Central Park in New York City. And so the property is technically private, but it is open to the public for light recreation, such as picnicking, walking. I've seen people crabbing there, fishing, those sorts of things. So this top photograph is, I'm actually standing on the northerly abutting property owned by the town of Guilford, looking south across the property. So it's undeveloped. There are several mature trees, and really the only two structure improvements of note would be the sort of the bulkhead along the waterfront, and then this picket fence along the street. The bottom photo is just me shifting to the west a bit, and this is what the site looks like at an average low tide. Okay, this top photo is, so I'm now standing sort of in the mud flat there and looking at the face of the stone bulkhead, and it's largely constructed of some dimensional stone, some irregular stone, with these nice long flat capstones, and you'll see throughout sort of the nearshore area many dislodged stones, and it sort of gets worse as you head downriver. Jumping back onto the property here, there's several areas of erosion that's occurred behind the bulkhead from stormwater runoff and from the tides actually flowing through the somewhat porous bulkhead and picking up soil and then carrying it out to the river. So this top photo, so I'm standing virtually on the bulkhead looking south, and you'll see sort of this area in here, just more erosion. The land trust has done the best that it can to sort of temporarily fill those gaps just to minimize the safety hazard. And then if you look further to the south here, you'll see these sort of grouping of trees that are super close to the bulkhead, and we'll pay more attention to that sort of as the presentation goes along. This lower photo is just showing sort of more erosion behind the bulkhead, looking sort of due west across the river. So this photo here is where things start to get a little complicated. So this area here is the collapsed section, and this is the condition that we're all concerned is just going to worsen over time. And so you'll see sort of just downriver, that's that grouping of trees that are super close to the bulkhead and that are probably not helping its condition. So this section is just a little further south, and there's actually this elevated section of bulkhead here, which is immediately at the west end of Broad Street. And it sort of suggests that at one point, boats came up the river to offload goods to bring them into town. But it's this tree that's right up against the bulkhead that's a concern. So as we head further south, and now this is the southerly property line here, and this tree here is just on the neighboring property. So this is another area where you have to pay close attention to sort of how to just solve it. And then this photo is now this tree that I just identified in the property line. So this old stone bulkhead actually carries further down river. So just something to be aware of. So now I'm just spinning around 180 and I'm looking due north now across the property. You'll just see more erosion directly behind the bulkhead. Here are all those trees that are super close to the bulkhead. And then here's the very north end of the site. This more erosion behind the bulkhead. There's a short return here right along the north property line. Now quickly, let's jump in a boat and let's take a little stroll down the river just to take a look. So this is more of a mid-tide condition, just looking at the face of the bulkhead. There's certain sections that are sinking for various reasons. Some missing stones. Luckily, most of the bulkhead is still serviceable. It's still retaining the property, but it's in a slow state of disrepair. So this is the failed section right here that we were looking at, and this area is just going to get worse over time if it's not repaired. So here's that elevated section of bulkhead at the west end of Broad Street, and you can just sort of see the difference. And here's that tree that's real close to it.
So
the tree looks fairly damaged, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, no, it's not in good shape.
David, are the roots presenting a problem to the stonework?
That's what it looks like. You'll see, in fact, you know what? I don't know if I highlighted it, but there's a good, at the southern property line here, you can see this tree. It's just an example. It's kissing the bulkhead and pushing it out.
Well, it looks like it's gonna fall down eventually.
Is it a Norway? Is it a Norway maple?
That I don't know.
Because generally those are pretty invasive, but
yeah, this one here is the closest one to the bulkhead on the property.
So for just historical notes, that elevated part you said has been there a long time. Was it used as an offloading area?
That's what our guess is. we were able to date the bulkhead itself back to at least 1934 from aerial photographs. And this all looks to be original.
Hmm. Hmm. And do you know, I mean, was there a wall and a bulkhead prior to the Olmsted little park?
I'm sorry, prior to the
Olmsted Park?
Yeah, so it was owned privately, I believe, before the land trust acquired it. And it's been in this condition, as far as we can tell from aerial photographs, since at least 1934, for the most part.
Hmm.
So I hate to jump ahead. Are you looking to remove the tree that's pretty damaged?
Yes, there are some trees that are going to have to be removed in order to replace the bulkhead.
So
And about that tree on the property line, has that property owner agreed, or have you been in touch with them? Has anyone been in touch with them?
Yes, we have. And so that tree, we're looking to, and I'll get into the details along the southern property line, how we're going to sort of resolve that. But that tree is not on land trust property. So we need to be very careful not to impact that.
well, or seek permission of the homeowner to like remove it, which might be preferable for them as well.
Could be. Yep. Yeah. One thing that.
But my question was, they have not been contacted about this issue.
About the tree or the project?
The tree or the project.
Yes, the project they have.
But not the tree.
I don't know specifically about the tree.
Want me to chime in here?
Sure, Sarah. Yeah.
We've met extensively with that neighbor. We've walked it with her. The problem is she's very attached to that tree. So the logical, efficient thing to do is to chop it down, but it's not our tree. So we're dealing with it structurally by giving it a little space. David's going to explain that, but we're not the property owner there, and we don't want to tell her how to manage it. So we're just giving it some space. So if something does happen to it, it doesn't bring our wall down.
I mean, it might be well to point out to her that if it falls down, it might be her responsibility to clean it up. And if others are willing to absorb the cost of doing so, that's something she could avoid.
We've talked through the options with her, and that was certainly one of them. And we are still in the same place with that. So, it's not our property.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay. Let me just jump to the existing conditions site plan, and essentially we're just looking at everything that we just looked at visually here, but just to point some things out on the plan. So along the north property line is that short return, and then as we move to the south, sort of you can see all of the eroded areas, and then at the west end of Broad Street, this is where sort of a lot of that activity is happening, sort of the failed area, all those trees that are really close to the bulkhead, and the elevated section of bulkhead there. It's just a unique feature. It's not necessarily an issue. And then at the south end, this is that tree that we were all just talking about right there. And then obviously the bulkhead continues to the south.
So a question. So who does the property owner have responsibility for that bulkhead on the West River?
The southern property owner? Or the land trust?
Who is objecting to the idea of removing the tree? Everything south of that tree, is that their responsibility?
Yes.
And what condition is that wall in?
We have not evaluated that wall because it's not land trust property.
Do you have a contractor lined up to repair the wall?
We do.
Okay. Assuming they're local and familiar with that kind of work?
They are. And they've been part of the design and evaluation process from the beginning, which has been super helpful.
Do you have a design here to show us, Dave? As you
We
can...
do, yes, we do. Let me just highlight a few things here. I know it's been a little bit, but so essentially we're looking to maintain the same bulkhead line, so rebuild the bulkhead in the same location, and to similar top elevations, trying to maintain the same character and same location as the wall. And also material was important as well. So we're going to repurpose as much of the existing stone into the reconstructed wall. And so let me just focus on sort of the north end of the property, looking to extend the return just a bit and just to minimize wraparound from flooding. So high tide pretty much comes up to here, and maybe the moon tides, the spring tides come up a little further. So this is going to help to minimize that wraparound flooding and the erosion, or yeah, the erosion that happens from it.
So you are extending that line?
The return along the property line.
You're extending it. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
Yep.
And then on the south property line, which is what we've been talking about a lot here. So here's that big tree. And so we're going to stop the primary repair about 20 feet short from the property line. And there'll be a 20-foot return there that's at grade or just below grade. So this 20-foot section between this return and the property line is going to be carefully deconstructed and reconstructed in place, as opposed to completely excavating it out and installing a concrete foundation and that, which I'll get into in a second. So this is a much more sensitive and careful way to approach the property line to minimize any damage to the existing wall and to the tree.
Can I ask who the contractor is who's doing this?
Shumack Engineered Construction has been identified.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And David, on that southern return, is that a new return that has not been there before?
Correct. That's a new return, and it's just a landward return, and it's just to sort of end the bulkhead to anchor it in.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So this is sort of my last little visual. So the concept of the repair is very simple. It's two parts. It's a precast concrete foundation that'll be manufactured off-site, brought on site, set into place, and then the repurposed stone would serve as a robust veneer, really. And so the purpose of the precast units is to work quickly, work efficiently, because the shoreline is going to be open during that time, and they're going to work during low tides. So the more work that they can do in that short amount of time, the better.
David, just in terms of process and sequencing of this, obviously there's excavation involved in putting that precast in.
Yes.
Are they going to remove the entire wall so to put the precast in?
Yes, in sections.
Okay.
In sections, yep.
Yep.
So basically what they can remove in one work cycle, they will install new. That's the idea.
Dave, a quick technical question. Those blocks that are the stone blocks, those will just sit in place. They don't get attached in any way to the cast concrete?
Yes, they will get attached.
Oh, they do get attached to it.
Yes, and the precast units will be secured together. So right now we're looking at probably 8-foot units, and then each 8-foot precast unit will be reinforced, tied together.
And then do they use iron tie rods will they drill holes in the granite to attach it to the precast?
Yeah, so it's probably going to be a combination of pinning and grouting. I think whatever is best based on the quality of the stone. I mean, this is old stone, so I think it's going to be some field decisions. But those are the options that we foresee.
Thank you.
And excuse me, David,
Yes.
and you guys don't have to do anything with the Army Corps engineers on this?
We do actually. So we've already secured permits from the state DEEP and the Army Corps.
Thank you.
Okay, Dave, I just want to throw this in there. It looks like it's a very strong foundation, which is great. And the way you'll be attaching the stone, the granite blocks. You did mention keeping the current top elevation the same, just considering sea level rise and how water would push farther in on something like this. I know it's a slow process of sea level rise, but I think your water line seems low enough, so we wouldn't worry about it flooding over the top and then eroding from behind. Do you think, I mean,
Yeah, so that's always thought about, and that's a good question. Raising bulkhead seawalls in state jurisdiction is very challenging because the state is concerned, as is the town, as should the town be, about flooding impacts to abutting properties. So typically the state policy is no more than 12 inches of increase in height.
Okay.
But even with that, they prohibit filling behind it. So it's really not doing much more than creating a place to sit. So in this case, we're really just trying to level out the areas, and there's really about 4 areas of different elevation. There's about a 224-foot long section up here that's going to have a top elevation of 5.25. And then that long section goes right to that tall section here. That's about 7.35 feet. And then it drops down to 4.8, and that slopes down to 4.43 to meet the existing bulkhead. And those are just the elevations that we were given. And so we're doing our best to sort of maintain those elevations. For the most part. Some sections will need that allowable increase within 12 inches to stay consistent with state policy.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions from commissioners?
Thank you for all your work. I mean,
yeah, it's pretty extensive.
Oh yeah, I drive by that every day, and I think it's a great project, and thank you for preserving it.
And any additional items for us to discuss?
Nope. We reviewed the deep permit pretty thoroughly. We added some similar conditions of approval to our suggested motion, but they're all aligned with the deep permits that have been issued.
Okay, thanks. All right, if there is no other questions from commissioners, I'd ask you, David, if you could unshare your screen. Thank you. And we'll throw it out to any comments. Anyone from the public that would like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this application? Looks like we don't have any. Let's see, this is a coastal site plan application. I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing if there's no further questions.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Oh, gotcha.
Thanks, Philip. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Jason Marchi?
Yes.
Kevin Clark?
Yes.
Bill Freeman?
Yes.
Philip Johnson?
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove?
Aye. We often get confused.
Yep. Frank D'Andrea?
Aye.
And I'll also vote yes. We will attempt to deliberate and render a decision on this tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, David. That was very, very well done. Thank you.
Great presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. And it looks like the plan was to move straight into deliberation. Is that what you were thinking?
Yes.
All right. I'd entertain a motion related to this topic, this application.
If you would like to put a motion up, I'd be happy to make it.
Are we just making a motion to do deliberation or?
I think we've moved beyond that.
Okay, that's what he said.
Thank you very much. The Town of Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approves the coastal site plan application for the replacement and reconstruction of the existing stone bulkhead with conditions as noted in this motion. Agenda item 140 River Street, map 39, lot 07, zone R3, applicant Guilford Land Conservation, agent Sarah S. Williams, coastal site plan application to replace and restore existing stone bulkhead. Application materials. Do I have to read those?
No, you don't.
Thank you.
And you can also just mention that, the conditions of approval are as shown here.
The conditions of approval. The application is approved with the following conditions. Sorry, I'm just going to go ahead and read them. Are there too many to read, or should I just say per the attached commission conditions?
You can just reference the published motion.
Okay.
You don't have to read them.
Conditions of approval are per the attached reference conditions of approval. The application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the Town of Guilford zoning code.
Thank you, Philip. We have a second.
I'll second that.
That was pretty good.
No, you beat me to it.
Frankie.
All right. We have a motion for approval. We have a second. Any discussion? I would like to echo comments from the other commissioners that this is a very well put together application. Really appreciate all the time and effort that went into it.
This is like totally. I'm actually kind of sad that they need to come to us to do something like this. That's such a restorative process, but so be it. I'm happy they did it.
It's still good for us to put eyes on it,
Yeah, I just appreciate being aware of all the really thoughtful work that's gone into this restoration. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's such a great little park too. I know, I think Sarah, didn't Ted work on rebuilding the fence along the road too to make it look nice?
I always smile when I drive by and I see a wedding or something like that going on there. It's a great little spot.
Great.
So I'm happy they're able to maintain it and restore it and make sure it's safe for everyone.
All right, thank you.
It's right across the street from the very famous Regicide Cellar. In case you aren't aware of it, you should look into it.
All right, thank you, everyone. We have a motion and a second. We'll vote for approval. Jason Marchi?
Yes.
Kevin Clark?
Yes.
Bill Freeman?
Yes.
Philip Johnson?
Okay, yes.
Sean Cosgrove?
Aye.
Frank D'Andrea?
Aye.
And I also vote yes. Good luck to you. When are you thinking that construction is going to start?
Sarah, that might be a good question. I know you keep asking me, but
you're gonna give me that question, like the one the whole town is asking.
Right. Well,
thanks, Dave. I think hopefully we can start before the spring. I think that's the mud season. It'd be great to get ahead of that. I mean, moving this through this permit is the last big barrier. And now we can really turn towards construction. So, maybe in the wintertime. The one thing, if I'm allowed to speak quickly, is we do need all to be prepared for how destructive this is going to be in the process. I don't think that the community is ready for what they're going to have to watch happen there. So, anything anyone can do to sort of help them understand that in order to support a wall that tall, we've got to go back pretty far with the excavation and lose trees. We're going to replace the trees, but it's going to be hard to watch at the beginning.
Going to be a change.
Yeah, a modest suggestion is, Sarah, write a letter to the Courier or write more than one. And
yep, We've got that all queued up. We're just waiting till it's not too early. We have a rendering of the project that's going to go out, but people, everyone, whoever has walked on it thinks that they own it. So we're just trying to get the word out to get people ready.
Right.
Well, and again, you're trying to make it a safer place for everybody. So that's the thing I would put my feet on.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Have fun.
Yeah. That'll conclude the public hearing portion of the meeting. We'll roll into the regular meeting. Ann, what do we have next?
The next item for the regular meeting is 10A Boston Street, map 49, lot 10A, zone R3. The applicant is Hunter S. Morris. The agent is Todd K. Anderson of Anderson Engineering. This is a subdivision and coastal site plan to officially establish 2 lots as part of the Sanzoni property. All application materials and the proposed motion have been posted to the city's website.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson.
Good evening, everyone. Todd Anderson from Anderson Engineering Survey and Associates, 1054 Boston Post Road here in Guilford. Here on behalf of my client, Hunter Morris, who owns the property in the rear of about 539 Boston Street, officially known as Lot 10A on the assessor's map. The property is an existing oversized remaining portion of this Sanzoni subdivision that was created over a number of years in 3 different phases. So we are here tonight to take this property and divide it in 2 and establish 2 viable building lots. Both building lots fit the zoning regulations. We do have a 20-foot owned strip of land out to Boston Street, with a portion of that being in addition to that is a 10-foot wide right-of-way that is along another piece of property that leads into the interior lot on 541 Boston Street.
Sorry, excuse me, Todd. Jenny, do you want to bring up the plan? Or Todd can.
Thank you. Thank you. So right now, 541 Boston Street has access to their land over 543 Boston Street in the front on their existing driveway. There is an existing agreement for them to gain access in front of that property, but the agreement was only for access to one house. So now that we are dividing it and having 2 additional homes in the rear, that new driveway that will be put in on the 20-foot owned strip and the 10-foot right-of-way that is owned by 541 Boston Street, that will negate the necessity of having that access along in front of that house on 543 Boston Street. So we will only have those 3 homes serviced off of this driveway. So we fit the regulations in that aspect. We have code compliant septic systems proposed for those 2 houses. One thing I should note is we do have an existing well exception on the property that was granted by the State Department of Public Health a number of years ago for 1 home. So as of right now, we are proposing lot 6 to have a proposed well, lot 5 to have public water, but I encourage the future owner of lot 5 to go to the state for a well exception to be able to put a well in. The other 2 interior lots, the one at 537 Boston Street and 541 Boston Street, have wells. They have gotten well exceptions due to the distance from Boston Street and the expense of putting in public water. So Sonia, the director of public health here in town, asked me to show where a well and the treatment facility for well water could go on Lot 5, which is why I revised the site development plan a couple weeks ago to show a potential proposed well on Lot 5 when and if they do get the well exception from the state of Connecticut. And Sonia feels that that shouldn't be a problem to get that well exception. We just haven't gone that route yet. So for right now, as of record, Lot 5 would be public water, Lot 6 would be a proposed well. I have added in on her request the wastewater treatment locations for both houses to prove to her that we could fit the house, septic system, stormwater, and the well and well wastewater treatment on both lots. So we are fully complying with the Department of Public Health requirements for all of those items. The driveway coming in, Janice had concerns about grades over 8% needing to be paved. We have no problem with her requirement for that. That's a pretty standard engineering department requirement on that end. So we have no problem with that either. We do have an approved entrance from Boston Street, which is a state-owned road. There was a DOT plan done a number of years ago, not by our office, but that permit to install that driveway has been approved by DOT. So all of the conditions of that plan and the approval from DOT would have to be adhered to. So I think that's I should say also, this is a coastal area management plan because we do fall within the CAM boundary for a subdivision. So we have the soil erosion controls around the whole site to protect the neighboring properties and so forth. So we did fill out a CAM application as well. One more thing I do want to say is I did read the draft motion resolution, and I just want to make one change on that. There is the date of the record subdivision map was noted as June 8th, 2023. I just want to make note that that plan has been revised to August 30th of 2023. Other than that, we have no problems with what is in that draft motion letter.
And that's what we're looking at right now, Todd, as the current drawing?
Yeah, Janique put up today or yesterday a draft motion for you guys to read if you.
No, I understand that. Are we looking at the June plan? Or are we looking at the
right now? You're looking at the site development plan, which was dated October 10th. That date in the motion letter is correct, but on the
there's the other map
on the record subdivision map is what I'm talking about.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My one question related to is this a new curb cut on Boston Post Road or is it existing?
It is a new curb cut on Boston Street. Yes.
Do you know if the current work that's going on, are they aware of what you're doing and have they taken that into account, or is this just going to be new and you're going to disrupt what they're doing now?
Well, there's no excavation in the road, except, if we
unless you hook to the water.
If we do have to put in public water, then there will be a cut into the road for that. But the gas main is in the grass. I think it's actually might be under the sidewalk that is in there. But they will have to remove portion of the sidewalk and make it compliant to the town specs of the 8-inch deep concrete rather than the 4-inch sidewalk which is there now. So that would have to be revised. But as far as cutting into the new road, other than putting in the water line, that would not disrupt the new pavement.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from commissioners? Yes, Kevin.
Hey, Todd, refresh my memory if you wouldn't mind. When we walked this with the Wetlands Commission, was that for a subdivision referral only? Or was that for a regulated activity?
That was for a subdivision referral. That was at the time we were only going to declare the property as one viable lot.
Right.
Okay. And we have not changed the limits of disturbance. So I went over it with Kevin and I presented to him that we were still keeping the same limit of disturbance, only we were doing 2 lots instead of 1 at this point. And the septic system really didn't change a whole lot. But more importantly, that limit of disturbance was identical. So we're no closer to the wetlands now than we were then. So he didn't feel that it needed to go back before the Wetlands Commission.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was checking on to see if you needed to go back for a modification, but it sounds like you took care of it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Scott, is there any open space requirement for this type of a subdivision?
I'll throw that question to Ann.
My understanding is that there's not.
Since it's a re-subdivision?
It's not a re-subdivision because this was never part of a subdivision. It was a leftover land from a prior subdivision.
Okay.
Let's just talk backwards.
Other questions? Ann, anything else that we should go over related to this application?
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay. If we don't have any other questions from the commissions, I'll open it up to the public. Oh no, we're in the regular meeting, so we don't have public input. All right. Any other questions from commissioners, or are we good? If so, I'd entertain a motion to close. Yeah, Philip?
It seems like a reasonable utilization of the property. It's not overly developed.
Well, and I appreciate that a lot of work's been put into it over the last month to get it to a very complete place as well. All right, I'd entertain a motion to close the hearing, close this item.
So moved.
Second.
I think Bill got the first one. I think it was Philip. Jason Marchi?
Yes.
Kevin Clark?
Yes.
Bill Freeman?
Yes.
Philip Johnson?
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove?
Aye.
Frank DeAndrea?
Aye.
And I'll also vote yes. Does anyone want to make a motion related to this item? We can have Jenny bring it up.
Motion?
I mean, I'll read it if you want me to.
Go for it.
All right, agenda item 10A Boston Street, map 49, lot 10A, zone R3, applicant Hunter C. Morris, agent Todd K. Anderson, Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates, subdivision and coastal site plan to officially establish 2 lots as part of the Sanzoni property. Now, as before, do I have to read all these application materials? And
nope. Just mention the application materials that are as noted and the conditions of approval as noted.
The motion is on the top and underlined if you want to use that.
At the top.
Town of Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approves a 2-lot subdivision and coastal site plan application for 10A Boston Street with the conditions as noted in this motion.
Yep. And then if you want to just read
I will second that motion.
Thank you, Phil. All right. Discussion?
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry.
Yes.
Todd, is this what you're speaking of? The record subdivision map? Is that the correct
Yes,
name?
yes, it is.
Okay.
That is not the correct date. That was the original date, and it should be revised to 8:30.
No, she hadn't changed it. Yeah, she changed it to 8:30 already.
I'm sorry, I didn't notice. Yes, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
We're all set.
Don't mess with Journey, guys.
Yeah,
She's
man.
on it.
She's gonna get you. She would have did that on the fly.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this one? All right. Seeing none, we'll go to the vote for approval. Jason Marchi.
Approved.
Kevin Clark.
Yes.
Bill Freeman.
Yes.
Philip Johnson.
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove.
Aye.
Frank DeAndrea.
Affirmative.
I'll also vote yes. Good luck to you, Mr. Anderson. Thank you for your time.
Frank, thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone.
Good job, Todd.
Thanks a lot.
All right. I'll throw it to you, Ann, for the next item on the agenda.
The next item is 1486 Boston Post Road, map 52, lot 11, zone PV2. The applicant is 1486 Boston Post Road, LLC. The agent is Francesco D'Andrea. Sorry if I killed that. It's a modification to approved site plan for parking and structure use change. I would note for the record, given that Frank is part of the commission, that he may want to recuse himself on this application.
No, don't let it.
I would love, Mr. Chairman, if you allow me to recuse myself.
Right. Thank you, Frank. We'll seat Larry Zillow for this application.
I would just note for the record that all the application materials and the proposed motion have been posted to the town's website.
Thank you. Attorney Shansky, take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I'm Marjorie Shansky. I represent 1486 Boston Post Road, LLC. This is relating to the construction that is almost completed, that was approved by this commission on March 2nd, 2022, effective March 11th, 2022. The site plan modification is filed to recognize a proposed adjustment to the parking layout to accommodate an easement from the subject property to the adjoining property at 1570 Boston Post Road. I'm here with Michael Harkin from Harkin Engineering, and if we can have the site plan displayed, he can talk about the details. But aside from the adjustments necessitated and, you know, within the construction period by DOT, Connecticut Water, and Eversource as to driveway details and utility locations, which are shown on the revised site plan, the parking layout has been modified to accommodate the easement and has resulted in a reduction in the parking on site, and that has affected or caused the conversion of the second structure, which was to be a mixed-use structure with a commercial use on the first floor and a residential use above, to be 2 residential units instead. So what we have before you is a modified site plan that is fully zoning conforming with those minor changes. And if you have any questions, Michael Harkin can probably answer them.
Yeah, Mr. Harkin, could you please just go through what the original, just remind us on the original versus what has changed?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, again, for the record, my name is Michael Harkin. I'm a professional engineer and principal of Harkin Engineering, located at 78 Wolf Hollow Lane in the town of Killingworth, Connecticut. Again, here tonight on behalf of my client, 1486 Boston Post Road, LLC, for obviously their project at 1486 Boston Post Road. So just to go over it in general, since Jernique has the drawing up on screen, we'll just leave this up here. I won't share my screen, but this is the site plan. The first thing to note is on Boston Post Road itself, the state DOT with our DOT permit has required that we put a right turn lane into the property, which we have done. That wasn't shown on the original plan. Because of that, we had to adjust the sidewalks that were required in the front a little bit to basically follow the same flow of the contours of the new curb line for that bypass lane. Secondly, on the map itself, we show the easement that Attorney Shansky had mentioned that comes onto the property. Prior, we had a series of parking behind building number 1, the restaurant. I believe the comment that I received was that a neighbor who has rights to that easement believed that that parking could interfere with his access to his property, his or her property. We subsequently removed any obstructions with that easement. There is no curbing, no fence post, no lighting, really nothing in that easement except for asphalt and grass. That parking was able to be removed because, as Mrs. Marjorie Shansky has noted, that building number 2 was previously a mixed use, and now it's becoming a residential, first floor, second floor residential. The parking requirement for residential is a lot less than if it was mixed use. So we were able to remove those parking spaces and still meet the town requirements for parking. That updated parking schedule is on our detailed sheet, D1. We don't have to go to that right now. But the other thing to note on this plan before I have Janique scroll down is that the wall that you see there, the retaining wall that we always had, is now a double stacked wall. Before it was a single stacked. During construction, we went to United Concrete. Their engineers looked at it and basically redesigned it and said the double stack would work better structurally. Again, and that wall is already in place. A permit was taken out. The drawings were submitted to the town for that building permit. So, Janique, if you could scroll down to the next drawing in the sheet, that is SD1. That's the site development plan. Okay, so what has changed on this is post approvals from the Planning and Zoning Commission. The plans are sent to the utility companies, and then the utilities come back with comments. On this sheet, what has changed is the water company requested and designated an area for the water line to come across for a meter pit to be installed where they wanted it, and then from the meter pit, the actual water service were branched off accordingly. Additionally, we sent the plans to Eversource with much discussion, about a year's discussion between Eversource, DOT, and the owner, that a private utility pole would be put on the property. Instead of going underground in the state road, they'll span the state road, put a private pole on there, and then they have the utilities come into a prescribed general location for a transformer that Eversource has basically mandated that we put on site. Now, with all the electrical needs, easements were cut for Eversource to be able to access with our surveyor. The Eversource wants to be able to come on in case they have to update or do any work to their transformer as well as the line. So the easements were cut and put in place. And those will be filed on the land records if they haven't already. The other thing to note on this is the septic systems have been consolidated. We have approval from the health director with regards to these. And at this time, it's important to note that we are putting in both the primary and the reserve septic systems at one time. Generally, you just put in the primary system that will be utilized, and you put the reserve in after the fact. In this instance, because it is up on the hill and it's difficult to get to, the owner has elected to put both in at the same time. And that makes it ease. Geomatrix, their Geomatrix septic systems, will be monitoring it with soil air. That gives them actually more capacity to switch on and off. So again, those are the general comments that we brought forward to the staff and the town. At the staff meeting itself, Janique, if you can go up to the last sheet that we saw, which is the site plan. One of the comments from the town staff, and really the only comment at our staff meeting, was that because we are deeming that building number 2 to be fully residential, that we put tenant parking spots that are signed and designated on in the parking lot, which we do. There's a loading space, and directly adjacent to that loading space, there are 4 tenant parking only signs that will be installed. So With that being said, those are all the revisions. Really, they're based on utility requirements post-construction, the DOT requirements with the required work within Boston Post Road Route 1, and then with the staff comments. So with that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Attorney Shansky for any additional comments and wrap this up, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Ditto on the questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I've got a question. So, Mike, how many? I'm not seeing before and after. How many fewer parking spaces are there on this revised plan, and is it now exclusively a drive-through for the Dunkin' Donuts?
Yeah, it looks like there's 7 parking spaces that are not residentially declared. Is that correct?
I believe that's a correct statement. There's 7 in that parking lot plus the 2 handicap across the way. Yeah. So basically what it is, it's the way this Dunkin' Donuts is set up is there's very few seats in it. Dunkin' Donuts itself, the franchise is getting away from a lot of seating in that space. So we're basically designing this more so for the drive-through aspect of it. And what we found is, and we just did the one in Killingworth that for the longest time was just a eat in, drive in. We added that drive-through lane in, and approximately 85% of the business now is through that drive-through. So
it's a lot more profitable.
Yeah, and with the event of COVID, a lot of people don't want that interaction between person and person. So there are very few seats. I think there's like maybe 6 or 7 seats total in that new Dunkin' Donuts that's there. So the seating is very adequate for what they're proposing and their use.
And more importantly, meets the ratio from the zoning regulations.
Do you have no parking signs set up in that easement area because otherwise people might try to park there on their own?
No, we just left that easement completely open. It's a travel way. There are no parking signs up there. There aren't any parking signs up there. We just left it completely open. We don't want to put any signs in that easement, curbing, fence posts, or anything. Again, we did have the parking in there, and that was a concern of the neighbors, so we just took that out.
Michael, Jason Markey, question for you. Those 4 designated parking spots for the 2 apartments, are you like putting any stripes on there or just signs that it's for?
We would put the signs right up in front, so there'd be concrete signs with the posts. So as soon as you pull in, it's right in front of you. Okay. Yeah, we found that if you paint them, if there's snow and ice in them, people won't see them. So we'll have physical signs on there, almost like a stop sign post that comes up, but not as big and not as intrusive.
Okay. Oh, Michael, just so I have my numbers right, we have roughly 14 cars lined up for a drive-through, and we have 7 spots if you wanted to park.
Okay, yeah, for the record, I believe so. The 14 comes from the DOT requires 14 cars to be queued in a drive-through off of a state road, so that's where the 14 is. And the 7 spots, I believe, they're on D1 has the parking breakdown that the food
if service. I may, I'm counting 11 for the Dunkin' Donuts.
I think 14. I got 14. Sorry.
Is that just graphic, Michael? Not necessarily actually 14 cars?
Yeah, you could probably, the reality is you could probably fit more in there. Just we left, certain gaps in between.
That's actually not the answer I'm looking for, but that's okay. I understand.
Yeah, no, the reality is this. Dunkin' Donuts has a timer inside. Their goal is to get a car in and out from the order within 60 seconds. Anything over 90 seconds or 2 minutes is a long time in line. So they want constant flow through there.
Yeah, I have to defend that, Michael. I go to Dunkin' Donuts all the time up by Goose Lane, and it's like a miracle how fast they produce from between. By the time you order it, so you drive up and it's right there.
What you need to do is go to exit 56 because those people are a machine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'm wondering if you can share your screen, Michael, so you control the mouse and you can point out that easement.
Sure. Actually, Janik, if you go back, it's highlighted for you guys. Did you want to go back, Janik, or do you want me to?
The long sweeping gray area.
Hold on. And part of that will be paved, just the part that's within the driving way?
Yeah, within the driveway would be completely paved and asphalted. The area that's not is the grass area that leads into the adjacent property. We've taken the fence out and everything adjacent. So if the neighbor wanted to, they can get up onto their property.
So Michael, then the amount of impervious surface shrunk?
No, sir, it didn't shrink. No, sir.
About the same?
It is exactly the same.
Okay.
Yep. And if you just go to site plan, Janik.
Yeah, she's waiting for it to load.
Yeah.
All right.
It'll take longer here because I'm in the middle of the country, in the middle of the woods for reception.
Larry, do you see that shaded area that starts on the plan on the left and sweeps to the entrance? Janik, you want to go over with your mouse?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
So
that's one side of it, and you see the other.
That's the whole easement there.
I see. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Can you just remind us with that crosswalk? That's not raised, right? That's just level with the pavement.
No, that's just a pavement marking itself. It's just painted on there.
All right. So there definitely is nothing in that easement at all. All right. Okay. Any other questions from commissioners? And anything else to draw our attention to?
Nope.
We have a question from Angus McDonald. Sir?
Don't hear him. Oh, there we go.
Mr. Chairman, you
Yes,
hear us
sir.
okay?
Yep.
I'm Attorney David Sherwood. I'm with Mr. McDonald and Mr. Adjemi, who's the principal of 1570. We have a concern, and our concern is that the grade of the property to the northwest, the property at 1570, is significantly higher than the grade of the driveway adjacent to the bypass lanes. And so that when we do bring our driveway from 1570 on to 1486, there's going to be a very significant grade change there. And we're going to have to put in a retaining wall to accommodate it. And that is going to essentially eliminate the bypass lane on the southwesterly side of the restaurant building. And we just wanted to go on the record to point that out, because if that's a zoning requirement, then
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Marjorie.
The possibility, the intrusion on and issue relating to the excesses having to do with the easement are not properly before the commission. They're not current, there's nothing pending, and it is not in order.
Okay.
This is a private matter and not within the scope of commission review.
If I may, I would agree with that statement.
Thanks,
as well. Similar to the daycare center that we dealt with.
May I respond to that, Mr. Chairman, please?
Sure. Quick, keep it fast. You're breaking up as well.
I apologize. The easement is a private easement. Attorney Shansky's correct, but the utilization of the easement is going to result in a modification of the site plan, because we've got to go from very high to the grade at the site. So we're going to have to put a retaining wall in. It's going to cut off the bypass lane. If that's of no concern to the commission, that's fine with us. We're not going to need any type of approval to use that driveway. We're not going to need any type of zoning approval to use that driveway. But we wanted to go on record to point out to the commission that at such time as we do utilize the driveway.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question for
because of the need for the retaining wall. Sherwood.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, all right. Your comments are noted. But as was mentioned, it's not part of the application. Bill, did you have a comment or no?
No, you said it perfectly.
Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? All right. I entertain a motion to close this application.
So moved.
Second.
I heard Philip, and I got Jason for a second.
Yeah.
That's good.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote to close. Jason Marchi.
Yes.
Kevin Clark.
Yes.
Bill Freeman.
Yes.
Philip Johnson.
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove.
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea. Nope. Nope. Just
it
kidding.
should be me.
Larry Rizzolo. Sorry, I get in the mode and I just like. Yeah. All right.
Yes, or since I'm
Larry
filling
will-
in for Frank, affirmative.
I will also vote yes. All right. Do we have a motion that anyone like to make a motion based on this application?
I'll read this one.
Thank you, Bill.
The Town of Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approves the modification of the previously approved site plan and special permit for both parking and structural use changes with the additions as noted in this motion.
All right. And thank you, Philip.
This application is approved based upon the finding that it conforms with the Town of Guilford zoning code.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? We have a motion in a second.
I did.
Second.
Yeah, I heard it. I'm just asking if there's any discussion.
Oh.
Seeing none, we'll move to a vote for approval. Larry Rizzolo.
Yes.
Jason Marchi.
Yes.
Kevin Clark.
Yes.
Bill Freeman.
Yes.
Philip Johnson.
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove.
Yes.
And I'll also vote yes. Thank you, Attorney Sansky and Mr. Harkin. Thank you for your time.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.
All right. And should we move on to discussion of proposed bylaw amendments?
Yes. Jernique, if you wouldn't mind bringing up the draft that we sent everybody.
I should make everyone aware that Frank is now seated again and Larry Rizzolo is not.
Welcome back, Frank.
Goodbye, Larry. No.
While Jernique's finding that, I'll just mention that I sent marked up drafts, and then the draft Jernique is going to bring up is the revisions of the first draft as discussed with the folks that we met with informally a couple weeks ago. We had some comments on the first draft, so we went ahead and proposed a few little additional changes. We'll just run through this really quickly. Jernique, do you have the draft that's not the markup?
Okay, hold on.
Clean copy. The bylaws, as I read them or as I could find them, hadn't been updated in about 9.5 years. So I took the opportunity as being brand new to say, why not? Why don't we take a look at these? The first major change, if you can scroll to the next blue mark. Yeah, there we go. The first major change that we in many instances here was just trying to clean up the language that was in the existing bylaws. The existing bylaws were not very clear as to how many terms could be served. So we added the commissioners shall serve no more than 2 consecutive terms. That is consistent with the language in the town charter. The next change.
So can I just pause you for 1 second?
Sure.
So historically, it has been, you can serve 2 terms until you are replaced.
Yes, that remains to be the case. Yes.
So that remains the case, but it doesn't seem to state that's the case.
It states that in the charter.
Again, that's part of the town charter, Phil.
Okay.
I mean, we can add here too, similar language if you would like.
That's fine.
They're just, again, throwing questions out.
Yeah, we can add that in. That's fine.
So you're adding in that until the replacement is found, you can serve longer than 2 consecutive terms.
That has been the precedent, but
that's correct.
I'm not averse to the 2-term thing. I'm just saying.
Well, we're not going to change the charter, so we'll just repeat the language as it's stated in the charter.
Right.
I think exactly what past practice was as well.
It's also too, I think, years served as alternates do not count towards your 2 4-year terms.
That's correct. And also, if someone is unseated for some reason and you take over their seat, that does not count as a full term either. So I actually took over when Josh left, and that was not a complete term. So then I did 4 years, and now I'm on my second 4 years.
You're on your way out, man. You're like lame duck.
I know. lame duck for 3 more years. But yeah.
But you're lame duck beyond me, lame duck.
Yes,
so
Bill?
if you come on as an alternate and then get seated, then you're obviously taking over for somebody. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, unless you get seated for one that's rotating off, and then you're seated.
And how do you know? Is that was all figured out in that other matrix that got distributed?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Janique has us all like matrixed out. We're good.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so the next change was just clarification of language in section 1 to reiterate that the annual meeting is in April. The election of officers shall happen then, and the secretary forwards the name of newly elected officers to the town clerk.
Yeah, the only thing with this one, Ann, is that we did not do this in April, so we probably need to rectify that here shortly.
Yeah, we could do that next meeting. I mean, did you not elect officers at all this year?
No, we did not this year.
Okay.
Usually it's, and Phil can back me up here, usually somebody mentions it and we're like, oh shoot, we should probably do that. So it'll be good to have a planned annual meeting in April where that sort of things are supposed to happen.
You know, the wonderful in April. Actually, the wonderful part is like, this is actually a pretty cohesive group, and Frank, if he's still here,
I'm here, boss.
Can attest to the fact that in years bygone, it had been very, very political contentious, and so I think the whole election of officers, I think, is a lot less dramatic than it was in years past, and that we're just looking to do the best going forward for the town. And Frank, back me up on that, or not.
No, 100%. I mean, we went through things where other people were raising other people's hands. Literally.
There's video of somebody raising someone else's hand up for a vote. It was crazy.
Yeah, this is a much better environment.
Great. So Scott, when did you get seated as the chairman? Was it more than a year ago?
Over a year ago, yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, Jason knows because Jason was the one that handled it last time.
Right.
Yeah, I would just suggest if everybody's happy, we'll just wait till April. I don't.
Yeah,
that's fine with me. I mean,
I'm fine with that.
Yep.
If you have a problem, then let us know.
Let us know. We'll have a special meeting just for that.
Where do I put my Scott Edmund sign for PZC chair?
Oh my goodness, let's not go there.
Go there. Phil, just be sure to get a permit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Well, Scott, you had some big shoes to fill with Phil, but you're doing it, buddy.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
He's got big feet.
He got it.
All right, to task, people. Let's go.
The next one is the most radical change I would suggest in the whole document. Suggesting that regular meetings be held on the first Wednesday of every month, monthly, starting at 7 p.m. And as at such other times and locations as the commission may designate. So this is the change, obviously, from past practice, but I think really with the volume of work we have in the office, this is best for us as staff, and I think it's reasonable. I think we can get through any agenda in, 3.5 hours. And if we need to, we can always call a special meeting.
I would add too that, Anne really has put a lot of work and effort into solidifying the process for applications so that all the information is up on the website and also is available for everyone long before the meeting. That helps us that we don't necessarily have to read everything during the meetings. Anne will just bring up anything of substance that is different or needs to be discussed. Anne will be sure to bring it up. But everything will be available before the meeting, so we can kind of make the meetings a bit more efficient that way. Is the plan.
I'd like to see an addition that on the first Wednesday of each month, unless it conflicts with a major religious holiday. We had a problem with that this year, and we should be able to avoid that.
I thought I read that in there.
No, but I think what we will do is we will run the calendar for the next year, and for the next meeting, if we find conflicts, we'll vote on a calendar, but we'll change this language that to reflect that.
Do you want to add that to part of the agenda for in the regular meeting section, and where we discuss the next year's schedule?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So can I chip in here?
Yep.
Yeah, Phil.
I mean, right now we have a provision for 2 meetings for a special permit. And it predates both Scott and Anne, but not Frank or me. And that was done for a reason. And that was because we had an application where the applicant lied to us and told us that things hadn't been done, and they hadn't been done. And town staff at the time, no one who is currently present kind of knew about it. And all of this came to light after the fact. And it was a real problem. So by eliminating half of our meetings, we're doubling, we're going from a 1-month potential schedule to a 2-month potential schedule for developers. So
which is in line with the time frame allowed for applications as well.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, we're really burdening our applicants by reducing our commitment.
So, well, Philip, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, Philip. So I have heard this before, and I totally understand. The thing about this is that, we can go back and look at what's the percentage of items that don't end up doing 2 meetings.
I agree. It's probably 10%. Agreed?
And also, again, we're trying to create, Ann's creating a process where there's a lot more standardized process ahead of time to make sure that everything on the checklist is properly followed. So I understand that it was a problem, but at the same time, I'm kind of feeling like it should be the other way around. You know, let's lean on our process. It's not, I think, Ann, you can correct me, it's not technically in the bylaws that we have to do the two. It was just kind of a general process that we followed. It was kind of a regular norm.
I actually think we amended the bylaws that did say it required.
Is it in the bylaws?
Meetings for a special permit.
It's not in the bylaws, it's in the zoning ordinance. And
right.
It's in the old zoning ordinance, and the new one suggests a second meeting, but doesn't require it. So we do always
an interesting change that I'm not aware of, but
yeah.
Okay, so be it.
We do always have the option of calling a special meeting.
That was my comment.
The problem is you don't know what you don't know. It's like, you know, things are presented to you and you take it at face value, and then facts come to light after the fact, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a little time on some things is not a terrible thing. And that's why I didn't put the rule in place, but I completely agree with it, because the circumstances around why that went into place were egregious.
Yeah, I understand that. I kind of typically fall on the case of, you know, that's such a low percentage.
Agreed. And we have waived, I'm going to shoot 90% of the time to waive the second public hearing. So,
and I would note, since I've been on the commission, that many times that second meeting, the applicant asks for a delay because they can't do in 2 weeks what the commission asked them to do. So it's even less than 10% of people that would be burdened.
That's fair.
Yeah. I'd also add too, we've got it in here that if we find that something is not working, we can change it pretty much any time.
Exactly. I think we should give it a try here, because in my experience, 99.9% of all the commissions I've ever been in front of, it's a monthly schedule, and it always worked. It actually worked better because we had more time.
Significant concerns that we can get through the materials that we'll need to get through in one meeting a month. But hey, we can change it if it needs changing.
And there's no limit on when the public can talk, right? Or I think there was some
public hearings.
Not in public
hearings. Frank,
we haven't gotten to that section yet.
Yeah.
Frank,
yeah.
How late were we at the JJ Sullivan meeting?
Well, close to I don't know, 11:30.
No, I think it was closer to 1:30.
Was it 1:30? I don't.
I
tried to block certain ones out, but we had candy.
Yeah, I gotta say, I find the potential for possibly 13 less meetings a year a bit too attractive to turn down right now. I'd like to give that a try, and then, like I said, if it doesn't work out, and
I'm fully in favor of if we think that an application is going to be, you know, especially controversial or is going to attract a lot of attention, we can add special meetings as necessary as well, for sure. We can choose to continue it. You know what I mean?
Right,
Sean.
So can we unilaterally change these, or does a public notice have to be given to the town that the bylaws of the Planning and Zoning Commission are being changed?
No, the bylaws responsibility is purely on us as an organization.
So we're not obligated to make any public notice of that.
No, other than it being in our agenda, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think it saves us a lot of time. The meetings go a lot more efficiently when we don't have to read the entire motion.
Yes.
Some of them being 3 pages in length.
Larry, our voices will be healthier as we age.
Yeah.
If
I will miss your mellifluousness, Sean.
Sean, I haven't mentioned it yet, but technically,
what a great Bill. I am in awe of your vocabulary.
Sean, it hasn't been mentioned yet, but you actually don't need to read the legal notice to the meeting either.
Yeah, that was another one.
Someone should have told me that a long time ago.
I let you do it today just for old time's sake, you know.
Like, hi, I'm Sean. Welcome.
But Scott, I'd love to be officious about it. I know. That's why I'm here.
All right, Andy, you want to continue, please?
Yeah, I just want to note one other thing. There is that from the unnamed municipality from which I came, I regularly ran meetings, one meeting a month, where we had 25 items on the agenda, and we managed to get through it almost every single time. So I think as long as applications are buttoned up, I think it's doable. But obviously, if we run into problems, we can always change it.
All right, Ann, your new nickname is Streamline.
Like that.
In this article as well, I'm suggesting an annual recess in August. That's just for the case because staff may want to actually take a vacation and not have to schedule around meetings, and that's 1 month when a lot of people do take vacations.
Also in favor of that.
Okay, Journey, keep going. Okay. We changed the language of section 2 and section 3 of conducting public hearings. I think we were previously misinterpreting how those two sections were written to interpret it that we must take questions from public hearings. And I don't think, when I reread it about 5 different times, I don't think that was the intent. So I tried to clarify here the actual process where the chairperson describes how the conduct is going to go. The agenda item is summarized, then there's a presentation, and then the chair can call for comments or testimony from the public. I think having a question period in there just muddies the water, and like the hearing we had last time on the text and map amendment, it kind of puts everybody on the spot in a way that seems really inappropriate.
And you discussed that with Chuck as well, I believe, right?
Yes.
In terms of how it kind of puts us in a bind legally if we answer a question incorrectly.
Yes.
That doesn't stop people from asking simple questions during their comment period. So, like, for instance, if the site plan is up and they don't understand something on the site plan, like, sure, yeah, you can ask a question of something on the site plan, you know what I mean? But for the most part, the plan would be to just throw it out for comments, whether for or against. We don't even necessarily need to delineate between the two. That was, and so that's kind of what the thought is for that.
Doesn't seem like a big deal to me. I mean, comments or questions.
It was always something that people just did not understand or willingly didn't want to. So this is going to make it a lot simpler.
How many times have we said
it's almost a distinction without a difference? I mean,
right.
People,
how many times we said
people can have a comment that actually turns into a question.
Right.
People can have a question that turns into a comment. So I think it makes.
But what are you saying, Sean? Enough said?
Yeah.
Yes, enough said.
Okay, keep going, Janique. I changed section 1 here a little bit differently because the old bylaws essentially, the commission was acting as HR for the planning and zoning department. So I changed it to comply with what we're doing now. I left in the part where if there's a point where the commission itself wants to hire out for professional services, I left the language in. I don't think that would be the reality of the situation, but I didn't want to play with language that we didn't
We
really.
certainly could recommend that somebody gets hired to do something.
Yeah.
Or get
and
Chuck's opinion.
Part of this, guys, too, is the existing bylaws actually have the secretary, for instance, being in charge of a lot of things in terms of setting up before the meetings and running it and whatnot. So obviously that's not what's happening now. No offense to you, Sean. I did secretary for a fair amount of time too, so I realize that. But this is just kind of formalizing what's already happening.
Okay, Janae, keep going. I think there's one more piece, maybe. Okay, this I just wanted to point out is that procedurally, so you can vote, if you vote unanimously tonight, we can be done with it. But if we have anybody who dissents, then we have to discuss this again at our next meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for the first Wednesday, which I think is the 6th. So we're having that meeting regardless. No, it's not the 6th, it's the 1st. That meeting is scheduled anyways, and that would be the first Wednesday of the month. So I'd love to be unanimous tonight, but completely understand if people don't want to do that. So okay, I guess that's all.
So do these changes go into effect as of a vote tonight?
Yes.
Question on this, the way it's worded, do the alternates get to vote on bylaws as well, or only if they're seated?
This is the language. I did not change this language, so this says the majority of the regular and alternate members, so it's everybody.
Okay.
Unless you want to propose a change to this.
I'm fine. They're part of the commission, so you know they should have some say.
Yeah, I agree.
Ask me
anything else? Yeah. Okay, Phil. Anyone else? Any other thoughts that after going through this a couple times? Okay. Would anyone want to propose a motion related to our bylaws?
Propose that we amend the bylaws as they've been presented and stated, and if they don't work, obviously we can re-amend them, and if we do get in a situation where we feel there's a special meeting needed, we can also do that. So I think I can already see just from this meeting, things are much more streamlined, as the new nickname goes, and I really think that things are going to be pretty smooth from
I'm dying to see that motion in the minutes.
Is that a motion or a comment?
I'll second.
Second. We got a second from Jason. I think that's part of the discussion. That's what I'm going with. The only thing I want to mention too is that Ted was with us when we met Ann 2 weeks ago and had our little hello to Ann sit down. And from what I've heard from him, he also was in favor of the changes, for what that's worth to everyone. Any other discussion?
One
yes, Ann?
Quick question. I think it was Ted who suggested a move to 7 o'clock instead of 7:30. I don't know if you want to discuss that any further.
Yeah, that's prior to bedtime. But other than that, it's okay, I guess. It just puts, usually I'm not by myself.
Just put on another Barney.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No big deal.
Especially with a meeting just once a month, 7 o'clock is probably a good idea.
Right. And as Ann mentioned, the expectation probably would be, depending on how busy this agenda is, but it could be 3 to 4 hours potentially. So it makes sense to get started a little bit earlier.
I agree.
Fine with me.
All right. Great. So we have the motion.
As long as there are no objections to commissioners eating during the meeting.
Well, that would be Ted's category.
Ted already does. Yeah.
You probably need to turn your camera off at the minimum.
Ted never does that.
All right. We have a motion and a second. So we'll vote on the motion to approve. Bob Harrington, are you still with us?
That I am.
All right. How would you like to vote?
Yes.
All right. Larry Rizzolo?
Yes.
Jason Margie?
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank DeAndrea.
That would be aye.
I will also vote yes, and Philip Johnson.
This has to be unanimous, right?
Right.
Yeah, or we'll vote on it again next meeting.
This is like what the thing they're doing in the House of Representatives now.
Like, you hold all the cards.
So Jim Jordan, I don't know.
I will vote yes, with the caveat that I do have concerns that it's going to create significant time constraints on developers. So we might want to reconsider it if we get pushback. But I will vote yes.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be that's a charge. Anne's the one that started this, right? So that's a charge to her to.
It's on you, Anne.
I can't. Did you call? Did Larry get a chance to vote? Did you get?
Oh yeah, I got Larry.
Okay.
You second.
Thanks for looking out for me.
I have Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment here? This is probably for Jernique. Under the Planning and Zoning Commission list you sent us, it looks like Phil Johnson is living in my house, so I'm going to charge him rent.
Oh, excellent. I would love to move into your house. I would actually love to be a squatter.
I think you are.
All right.
So
we
Phil
do
Johnson,
still have a couple more.
I'm sorry, if you could just email me your address, and I'd have it updated.
Proper address. Okay, for Phil. Yeah. Thanks.
No, for you.
Pack your bags, Phil. Pack your bags.
We do still have a few other things here. Andy, you want to talk about the designation of ZEO?
Yeah, so this is an item just for your consideration and discussion. I don't have a strong feeling either way, but I thought I should bring it up. Nigel resigned and then I had to fire him. So I know that sounds really funny, but that's what happened during his resignation period. But we are left without a ZEO. I imagine it's going to take me some time to find somebody to fill that role. The commission is allowed by ordinance to appoint people other than the ZEO to act in that capacity. So you do have the ability to pass a motion that would essentially anoint Jernique and myself to act in the capacity of the zoning enforcement officer until such time as we hire another person. This is just really putting it on the record and stating for all the world to see that we will be acting in that capacity. We can't not have ZEO action because the whole ordinance is kind of premised on having a ZEO. I will state for the record, I do not want to permanently be your ZEO, but Jernique and I are triaging and finding a way to split the work so that we can keep, applications moving forward and the work of the office moving forward.
Yeah, I note that in the Connecticut Mirror, there was an article about how difficult it is to find qualified people to fill this and other town staff positions, and that towns are poaching each other's zoning officers, for example.
Yeah. Well, and on that subject, Steve Natick, who we've been using in a lot of that capacity, actually got poached by another town. So Titch Engineering is also not an option this time. And Ann hasn't really found anybody else as qualified as them to do that piece for us. So that's why this idea is getting floated as is.
I mean, we have to understand like what the nature of this position is. Like, look, you have to present bad news to people and say, look, I appreciate that I'm telling you something you don't want to hear, but here are the regulations. I'm trying to present it in the nicest way possible. This is my job. It's not your job to confront them. It's just your job to inform them. And it's not an easy, you're not going to generate a lot of smiles. But that's the job. It's just, you're there to, in a polite and gracious way, inform people that what they're doing is out of compliance, and here's what you need to do. And if they don't do it, that's on them.
Yeah. Bill?
And that goes a little bit better if you know what you're talking about. Right? There's a lot of skill, it seems to me, in deciding if things are being done properly.
Yeah. So we don't need to get into that at the moment. Bill?
Ann, is this going to be mostly the at the desk type of administrative aspect of the thing versus going and doing inspections of drainage systems and E&S and catch basins and all?
I can do inspections. I've done multi-million-dollar construction projects for years. I've designed plenty of things. I can do those things. I wouldn't ask Journey to do that, but there's a lot of day-to-day kind of ZEO tasks where we have people walking in and saying, I want to do X, what can I do? And that task in the zoning ordinance is actually assigned to the ZEO, even though practically speaking, the entire staff does that work. So this is really just a formalization of what already actually happens in the office.
Right.
And then at our impromptu meeting, there was a discussion of having like a quarterly person that came as a adjunct to the whole process to do physical inspections. I know Sean has brought this up in the past, that it's great to have all this language in there, but it's not so great if it never gets done or looked at. So is that anything that's being milled or mulled around?
It's going to be such a challenge to find qualified staff without poaching from somebody else that I can't even answer that question right now. I know from my own experience in New Haven in the last 5 years, just finding bodies, not let alone qualified bodies, was such a challenge given the salary grades available and competing with everybody else, that will remain a challenge here because our budget and our union contracts are limited by what they say.
Yeah. So a question from a procedural point of view. Legally, and I think you said that we need to have a ZEO. Do we as a commission have to formally tonight name a alternative or temporary ZEO?
As I tried to explain, you don't have to, because effectively the staff acts as the ZEO. So in many cases in the zoning ordinance, it'll say the commission, when the people doing the work is actually not the commission, it's the staff. It's similar with the ZEO, where it says the ZEO is responsible for X. Many times that work is not actually done by the ZEO, it's done by Journey, or it's done by me, or it's done by the ZEO. I'm giving you the option as a commission, because it's a brand new zoning ordinance, to kind of set the stage here and say, you know what, we need a ZEO, we need to make a statement about it. And the option is to say, we, the commission, are empowering the staff to act in the capacity of the ZEO as ordained in the ordinance. You don't have to. We're going to do the work anyways. The work of the department and the ZEO work that we do have doesn't stop because we don't have the body in the role. This is just a formal statement on that. So you could go either way.
Yeah, my feeling has been on this when Ann brought it up was, I feel like we need to give an official, designation so that, if anybody ever questions whether or not they have the authority to do something, that it's demonstrated in our minutes that we have given the authority for them to do it.
Yeah, Scott, I am in total agreement. Yeah. I think that having any gray space is an opening for someone who is gonna argue with some kind of enforcement or some kind of order.
Right.
Just make it clear.
Yeah, I think makes perfect sense.
I think, and in the event that we do hire a ZEO official, it sounds like we probably would want to make it more hybrid anyway. and say some roles are still going to be done by all town staff, whereas other roles are going to be done by the ZEO specifically. So I'd imagine that we'll probably adjust it again.
Yeah, I think we've talked about having an assistant town planner ZEO.
Right.
That's the idea.
No,
Okay.
I think that from what I understand, that was just
the
created.
previous title, by the way.
That was created because of a pay grade dispute with Nigel.
It wasn't that. It was
previous to him.
They couldn't find someone that wanted to take the job as just ZEO.
No,
so you
correct.
made it assistant town planner and then ZEO as part of it.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah, that was previous to them hiring that position.
Right.
They made that decision already.
Right.
Okay. So, all right. Does anyone want to make a motion then? Put this to bed. Make it official.
I'll make a motion to approve the bylaw changes.
I'll second that.
All right. So we're going to say that making the motion to say that ZEO's task can be handled by all town staff.
For the time being.
All right, so that was Phil and Frank. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. All right, let's move on again. Jernique, what do we have for approval of minutes today?
September 6th.
All right, so is anyone able to review the minutes for September 6th?
I looked them over and they seem substantially correct.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Frank. Anyone like to make a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you, Bill. And I'll give Sean a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
We got an abstention from Jason. I was at a training actually recently where they told us not to let people abstain.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's apparently there's two different court cases, one that says that if you abstain it's a yes, and one that says if you abstain it's a no. And so the recommendation of the trainer was don't abstain. Just FYI.
Don't say anything.
So if I was not at the
In other words, say
September
silent?
6th,
In other words,
we can still do it. It's fine. It was just a funny thing.
Robert's rules.
I want to see you on the stand for that case.
Okay. All right, perfect. Then
So
the abstention stands.
I kind of meant
are you
yes.
saying if I didn't attend the meeting and therefore can't verify that the meeting and the minutes agree?
Vote no.
I can't verify
Yeah, but
that they reflect. I should still vote yes or no.
I mean, you can review it and
you should be quiet,
see if
I
it.
guess.
Because what you're doing is you're technically approving the minutes. So if you read through the minutes and you don't see anything that seems wrong, then technically you can vote yes.
But if you weren't
Anyway,
I don't say anything wrong because I wasn't there. I can't say.
it's fine. We'll just continue as we were. It was a funny thing that they talked about.
Come on, Janique's got to go home. She's getting tired. I see the neck bobbing.
I know.
He is home.
I wanted to end the meeting by saying thank you to Jernique.
We do have a little bit more on the agenda. Administrative site plan reviews. Anne, you want to take it away?
We don't have to discuss these. These are just noticed on the agenda. So there's nothing.
I move to accept the administrative site plan reviews.
Second.
Yeah. I don't think we even have to do that.
You don't have to do that.
It's just more for our information. If you do have questions about them, go ahead and check in with Ann.
So I do have a question that now that we're on the monthly schedule, is there a possibility for a time where one could call in to ask questions, or is it just whenever you feel like it? Because sometimes I read through this stuff and I have questions, but it's been so close to the meetings usually that everybody's scrambling. So is it going to be?
I would suggest that you need to figure that out with Ann separately or Jernique separately. If there's too many of us on one call or one thing, then it becomes an official meeting, which is a bad thing.
We can't have a meeting, but if you have.
No, I meant calling you. I should have been more clear.
Calling Scott or calling me?
You, Ann, sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. If you have a question I can help you with, feel free. Don't do it the day of the meeting. I'd love.
Well, that's what would always happen is it was, so now we have a little broader band here to work through. Okay.
Yeah. And I think Ann's goal is to work towards, notifying us about all the meeting materials. I think you said you were thinking like the Friday before, correct, Ann?
Yeah, our
is
plan
kind of
is
the
to have
plan.
everything uploaded the Friday before, but we will start uploading as soon as we get application materials. So
Right.
once we have a tentative agenda set, we will let everybody know. So that will signal you to take a look at the website.
Okay.
Can I add something?
Sure.
I usually upload, as Anne just said, way in advance before I even send you guys that email on the Friday before. If you guys want, I can send you all an email and said, hey, I've started uploading materials. I don't know if that would be helpful at all.
I don't think so. I think just the Friday before is fine. Just to remind us. But we kind of should know that if you start looking, once, as Ann mentioned, once there's an agenda that's up and sent to us, then there's stuff to look at. So,
but also a clarification, on a one-to-one basis, I could call Phil, or I could call you, or I could call Sean.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, you really shouldn't be having ex parte communication at all.
Correct.
So
you should be contacting Ann for technical questions only.
Yeah. You really should not be discussing the matter outside of this meeting.
We'll play paddle tennis, Bill.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Now that's on the record.
I was under the impression, as long as it was under 3, it was
All right. Before we talk ourselves into circles, should we adjourn? Ann, is there anything else that we need to go over?
No, that's it. Thank you.
All right. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that.
Don't move.
Oh,
Second.
Jason got it first. Second from Phil. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann and Janique.
Good night.
Good night.
Scott, stop.